What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the Realignment Dynasty here on NCAA 14, featuring that college football revamp, of course. We are out here, man. We just finished what was a truly incredible season for us, man. We ended up with a dream season as our first year as the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma. So, we're going to go ahead, take a quick look at the stats and the awards real quick, and then, of course, have the entire offseason recap, as well as give you guys a little bit of a, insight into how you guys can get a little bit more involved in this series. So, it's going to be a good one. Make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And we'll start by taking a look at our schedule in its entirety, right? So we ended up, we started off pretty easy, beat an FCS team, to get our confidence up, as well as Old Dominion, who actually finished winless. So we might have to see about them moving independent and moving a different team into that conference. And then, our offense really looked good for the most part throughout this season. Putting up 37 against Oklahoma State, 63 on Baylor, 68 on South Alabama. They did not get invited to a bowl game, but Texas did. And we put a lot of points up on Texas, of course, before beating Kansas. Then we ran to a little bit of a bumpy ride here after we got off the bye week. We faced against TCU, and unfortunately TCU did beat us. Same thing with Texas A&M. They put a 50 burger on our head, so that put us in a win or go home kind of mindset. And to give credit to this team, they really stepped up to the plate. We won our next 4 games, 73 in the conference championship. That did get us into the college football playoff, where eventually we would end up meeting with Florida in the national championship game and then winning that national championship game. So feeling really good about that. Glad that we got that opportunity. But one thing that I skipped over, while we were going through the end of the regular season, as well as going through the rest of the the prospect special, is that Antoine DeAngelis brought some awards home. Most notably, he brought home the Heisman Trophy. Now, I don't think this might be the very first time that I've won the Heisman Trophy in any series that I've done in NCAA, but he brought it home, man. Antoine DeAngelis, 6,000 yards, the first quarterback in NCAA history to do that. Was a gunslinger, 54 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, but then also tacked on 1,000 rushing yards on the ground as well, and 21 touchdowns on the ground. A really historic season for Antoine DeAngelis, and I would truly be shocked if he doesn't go to the NFL after this year. 98 overall. I would expect him to leave after that. And just beating out guys like Justin Young, Tyrell Bevery from Rutgers, Josh Heath, and Todd Evans, all these junior, senior quarterbacks that, is part of a pretty good class, man, for this year. Good quarterback class, I believe, but Antoine DeAngelis definitely has to stand down above the rest. As for award winners outside of Travis Miller, or not outside of Travis Miller, but Antoine DeAngelis, we saw some other award winners as well. Travis Miller, for example, he does end up winning the Bednarik Award for us and brought home a ton of awards himself. He's the defensive version, I guess, of Antoine DeAngelis. Ends up winning the Bednarik Award, wins the Nagurski and the Butkus Award. So, really bringing in a ton of awards on the defensive side of the football as well. As we saw for the Walker Award, Marcellus Wallace, a custom guy, he did almost win that award. He finished in second place in terms of that. Andrew Hargrove, though, wins the Blinicoff. That goes to the best wide receiver in college football, but a couple of custom guys here as well. Freddie Flash, a senior from Orlando, he ends up finishing in second place. And then Jody Gentry, part of that Florida Gator squad that went to the national championship, he finishes in 5th place as well. So a very good season for both of those guys, even though Andrew Hargrove, he was simply on a different level. As for the Lombardi Award, that actually goes to, I believe it's the best defensive lineman in college football, and that goes to Brian Glover, a senior from Fountain, Colorado. He ends up with 28 TFLs, 10 sacks, 2 forced fumbles as well. Just really adding on to that trophy case that we have here at Oklahoma. And then Jerry Meyer, he ends up winning the Jim Forpay Award. That goes to the best defensive back in college football. Not that great stats. So, I mean, 4 interceptions is not bad, but I thought maybe like a Chris Fall could challenge, has a little bit more. We might have definitely benefited from, being a, national championship team, as well as, completing all of these records and whatnot. Jet Award, though, that is that goes to Kevin Cobbs of Syracuse, but Zachary Davis was in the top 5. We saw him sparingly on the field for Ohio State and should see more playing time next season. And so, taking a quick look at the stats so far, or at least like at the conclusion of this season, Antoine DeAngelo, clearly the leader in passing yards. He ends up with 6,276 passing yards, and then had 1,000 yards on the ground as well. So we're talking about over 7,000 yards of total offense by Antoine DeAngelo this year. No kidding. Probably the best quarterback that I've ever used. He was straight up a cheat code. Willie Lewis, he ends up finishing with around 1,300 yards of rushing. Pretty good year for him, even though we were in air raid. But what benefited the most was our receivers this year. We had 3 receivers in the top 5 in terms of receiving yards in a season. Andrew Hargrove obviously at number 1, but Drew Ryan was in there. He was just shy of 1,500 yards receiving. And then Coleman, he ends up in 4th with 1,237 yards. Jody Gentry, again, custom guy who ends up being extremely talented. He ends up finishing in 3rd with 1,320 receiving yards. As for how your guys' custom guys did over the course of this season, I will have a Google Docs that's going to be linked down in the description, so that if you want to see how your custom guy did, you can go ahead and check that out, or you can always ask me in the comment section, and I can definitely answer for you to tell you how he did. But great season for our offense, and that does mean we got to take a look. I think it might be time for us to go ahead and go for a head coaching position. I mean, we're at a 6-star program. We just won a national championship. We're number 1 in college football in offense. 54 points scored on a per game, and we're feeling good, man. I'm feeling really good. So with that being said, we'll go ahead, jump into the coaching carousel to see what kind of head coaching opportunities are available for us. So we take a look into the coaching portal, and I'm actually liking this offer, man. Michigan State, they're a 3-star school. They just had some great success this year, nearly making it to the college football playoffs themselves, but just fell short. They took a couple of late season losses that kind of cost them an opportunity. But they're a program on the up and up, and this is a team that won its first notable thing in the last 6 seasons. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this offer, man. I think there's some good things here at Michigan State. And yeah, man, I'm really feeling really good about that kind of opportunity, being the new head coach of Michigan State. Now, as for Chris Gentry, of course, had that amazing season at Mid-Tennessee State, leading them to their first bowl win in the last 6 or 7 seasons, and, does get a contract offer from Central Michigan. But the way that I see it, 1-11, about the same talent level as Mid-Tennessee State. It's tempting to move up a little bit. They are a little bit higher of a prestige, but, it's just not that tempting enough. So Chris Gentry, he is going to stay at Mid-Tennessee State, at least for this upcoming season. We'll see how he does, in year number 4, but at least for this year, he will be off of the coaching market and going to stay with the Blue Raiders. That being said, though, Coach Justin Jones will get an opportunity to prove himself once again as a head coach. He does get a head coaching offer, and, gonna jump on the opportunity, man. Mississippi State, a team that was a Power 5 level kind of squad. And, it's a good opportunity for him to get some reps, get some playing time, and get those extra chances of, being a head coach once again, because that's what he's called to do. So we move on to always one of the saddest things in the offseason, and that is, seeing players leave and graduate, or, for other things as well. And it looks like we'll have our work cut out for us a little bit at Michigan State to continue building up this program to something that can constantly compete for national championships, because we do not have anybody actually make it to the NFL. There will be no pros. We had a couple guys that could have been considered. Walter White, a 92 overall guy, and Austin Hackett, he was a 91 overall person. But, this senior class, not particularly talented, and I think we can, build off a success that was had here at Michigan State and try to make something special here for the Spartans. Now, as for Marcellus Wallace, though, he was up there in terms of, fighting for some awards. And while he didn't go away with any hardware, he had a great season, and that is good enough to get him into the NFL. He is currently projected to be a 6th-round pick for the Rams, the only one from Colorado State. As for Ethan Daniels, he ends up with a solid season himself, showing that while he's not the most athletic person on the field, he's very smart, and that will also get him some NFL buzz as well. The Georgia Tech linebacker is projected to go into the 4th round. So we move on to the recruiting portion of this offseason, and I'm looking at the recruiting class that's already put together here at Michigan State. And I didn't spend anything on scouting just because I only got 10,000 points. I don't have a lot to work with, so I'm just gonna hope that they're not busts. But that being said, there's a few key guys that I do like in this recruiting class. Early Austin is one of them. Got right out of Auburn Hills, Michigan, number 6 corner. He could contribute right away. Billy Hammond looks like someone that could be a good scrambling quarterback. Needs to work on his arm a little bit, but 4-star guy, number 11 in his class. I do like him as well. And then, of course, we also got guys like Dave Brown and Justin Robinson that are in this recruiting class, as well as some guys that are going to need some development, with the exception of course, Corey Ross. He's a JUCO guy, 3-star athlete. I like what he could bring to the table, but we could still add on to this class. We got 9 available scholarships, and what I want to do, I want to key in on 3 guys in particular. There's another quarterback in this class that I want, in Eric May. We need one more quarterback just to make sure that we don't have any walk-ons at the quarterback position. That's something that I really want to avoid at all costs. Now, he is, a pocket passer, more of the traditional like NFL kind of quarterback, not that quick. We're in a recruiting battle right now. It's between us and Indiana, and I did end up putting in a few thousand points into him, so we'll see if we can get Eric May to come. Does remind me quite a bit of Drew Brees. But there's also a 4-star guard that I really want to beef up that offensive line. Tyrell Jensen from Lima, Ohio. He's the number 2 guard in this recruiting class. Does a really good job of run blocking. So there's that to really enjoy ourselves with. Again, can't really see his stats, but I'm going to assume he's a solid blocker. Could work on his impact blocking a little bit. Put some points into him. And then Brandon Wiles is somebody that I also want to go after. 3-star guy from Dover, Ohio. Hopefully get all these 3 guys to sign on that dotted line, but the only way to find out is if we move on to signing day, and we'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening when all of that goes down. So we get to signing day, and it looks like the class that we did end up signing, not in the top 10, but where we were originally at Oklahoma, they did end up with the number 1 recruiting class. 6 5-star guys in there. Absolutely insane class. They are going to be extremely talented for for years ago, defending champions and the #1 recruiting class. That's absolutely insane. TCU, they do also manage to sign a top 10 recruiting class themselves. They ended up with 2 5-star players, 7 4-stars. So a lot of talent going to Fort Worth, Texas. They'll definitely still be in the running for that college football playoff, even though they were just a little bit short this season. Didn't go like the way that they wanted to personally. As for the recruiting class that we did end up signing at our new position, we end up with the 45th overall recruiting class. We got some pieces that we can build off of for sure. Did not get the quarterback that we were looking for, but we did end up signing another quarterback, Paul Moore. He's a 2-star player. That will at least make sure that we don't have a lock-on at that position. Granted, they're going to be a third-string quarterback either way, with either Brandon Hammond, who's the highlight of this recruiting class. He's either going to go ahead and get himself onto either as a backup or maybe someone that could potentially start as a true freshman. Who knows? We'll have to wait till all the, the recruiting results and all of that officially plays out. Now, Justin Jones did also take over at Mississippi State, of course, and certainly some work that needs to be done. He's going to have to really step up the recruiting moving forward. 76th ranked recruiting class for a team that was Power 5 before all the realignment stuff happened. Granted, there is a bunch of 3-stars here, but they're going to have to definitely beef up their recruiting a little bit. The 76th ranked recruiting class, that's not going to get you to a bowl game, especially in a difficult Sun Belt conference. As for Mid-Tennessee State, who now has 2 stars by his name in terms of prestige, 111th recruiting class for Chris Gentry. They did sign 1 4-star player, Brian Battle, as well as some 3-star compliments as well. They end up signing 16 total players in this recruiting class, so not a big class, but they are returning some experience next season, so that will give some of the freshmen that are on the roster at least some time to develop behind the experience that's on this roster. Still a great year for the Blue Raiders, and it'll be interesting to see if eventually that recruiting does start to show match the on-field success that they had this year particularly. We did also see a couple of your custom prospects also sign at various schools. There were 2 guys that didn't sign until signing day. One of them did happen to be the #1 player in high school football, Nelson Crocker, the 5'10", 200-pound running back from Midland, Texas. He ends up going to New Mexico. Now, that would be something if that would actually happen in real life. The #1 player in high school football going to a program like New Mexico. Kansas almost managed to snag him as well, and then Utah State was in the running, but a lot of small schools that were in the running for this guy, and he was looking for somewhere to get plenty of playing time, and I'm sure he's going to get that at New Mexico. Look for him to start very early in his college career. Now, as for Jaden Battle, though, Jaden Battle was in a recruiting matchup between UCF and Troy, and it looks like he's going to the Golden Knights. He is going to choose UCF over Troy. He's going to be spending his college football playing in the bounce house. So we move on to position changes, and this is the first time that I'm really looking at our roster, taking a deep dive, and gonna be honest with you, we are going we're gonna be a younger team, it looks like. Definitely, it seems like that we're in a rebuild. It almost seems like definitely will not have any NFL prospects on this team, at least for this year specifically. But I'm looking at Corey Ross, who is a 3-star athlete that we did end up getting during the regular season, and it looks like he's fit to be a wide receiver, and he could come in and probably be that 4th receiver. I'm expecting Mike Anderson to at least improve marginally to be that free guy, and then relying on both Ben Young and Ronnie Harvey to take the reins at the receiver position. Quarterback is looking a little questionable. We do have Andrew Grave he did not, he threw the ball 2 times, right? He does not have a lot of experience. He also carried the ball once, so maybe a few plays of experience tops, but not very much experience at the quarterback position. Billy Hammond, that 4-star that we signed, he ends up only being a 69 overall. And then Paul Moore, not really good either, only a 54. So, quarterback might be something that we'll definitely need to recruit and get better at moving forward. Tailback, not much better. We do have Anthony Williams. He is a senior redshirt on the team, but then after that, not really any experience that's been proven. Nelson Sisk, no carries, and then Anthony Williams does have some carries to his name, but it's not a lot. We do have a few fullbacks though, so we're gonna maybe, I'm tempted to move a few of them if we have some shortages on the offensive line, which honestly it really does look like that we do. We're gonna go ahead and make those adjustments. We don't need free fullbacks, I don't think. I really don't want that to be a thing. As for the defense, not really a lot of great defenders. Cedric Petrie is solid. Mike Clark is going to be okay. Defensive tackle is definitely a weakness on our defensive line. And our linebackers are not very good either. So we're going to have to build that linebacker core up a little bit. Jason Wade should be solid though. As for Randy Bell, and then Ryan Herring, a free safety, he's actually going to end up being a gem player. So that's going to be huge for us. He'll start right away, and he'll start alongside Anthony Adams, who is a true senior himself. He's got elite speed. Now, one thing that I did go ahead and do, particularly on the defensive end, because I like to have at least like 3 deep at East linebacker position. I took one of these middle linebackers because it's a little bit clustered up on the depth chart. Leo Williams doesn't really have a chance to play at middle linebacker as a starter, so I'm kicked him over to right outside linebacker. He has a little bit more speed than Daryl Hawthorne, so he has a chance to at least work himself up to a backup position. But again, it really just shows that we're gonna have to recruit, and we're gonna have to recruit well if we want to be successful long term here at Michigan State. So this is what our roster is now looking like after training. And while things do look a little bit better, notably Isaac Horn putting in work in the weight room, he's an 88 overall. We still don't have any NFL caliber players, and I'm not really loving like what I'm seeing in terms of the talent that we have in this roster. Again, I mean, we have some guys we can use like Ben Young, Ronnie Harvey, Mike Anderson on the offensive side of the ball, so we'll have like some weapons, but the offensive line in some spots is, particularly our guards, is going to be a little bit concerning, and we might have trouble running the football if that's the case. But defensively, I think we'll be okay enough. Linebackers, definitely going to need to recruit that linebacker position a little bit better. But Kenneth Wood, he's a solid young player. I like his speed. Jason Wade has fantastic speed. We could probably use him in the return game. But we definitely have some holes in this roster that we're going to have to address through recruiting before we worry about, making national championship appearances, making it to the college football playoff, in my opinion at least. So that leaves us to the most difficult part of the offseason. We have to cut a few people from our roster real quick, and I usually like to cut from the bottom. We got some guys in the 50s here that I just don't envision seeing the field. Jesse Macklin is a perfect example of that. I'll see him playing. Paul Moore we have to keep because he is the third string guy. Otherwise, we would have to take on a walk-on, which I'm not really trying to deal with. Mike Gibbs is already a redshirt, so he's had a year of training and is barely a 70 overall. And then I just don't think, either Frank McDaniel or well, hang on now. There is a sophomore, Reggie Gardner. He's a sophomore as of right now. I think what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get rid of him as well, because he also has had a year of training. So that's going to be our final 70 guys. This is what our roster is going to look like And now we will go ahead and see what our schedule is looking like. It's going to be really interesting to see how things stack up, over on this end. Now, before I go ahead and show you guys the schedule that we have as our first year as the head coach for Michigan State, one conference change that I wanted to make. Old Dominion did end up finishing 0-12, and because they finished winless, they will be relegated out of a conference, and a new team will be taking its place. Coastal Carolina, in its first 3 years, was an independent school, but they're chilling out here, only independent team in the Carolinas, and it's time to welcome them into the party. So Coastal Carolina will be joining this Mid-Atlantic Conference, and as for Old Dominion, they will be becoming an independent school. But that is the only conference change that will be happening moving into year number 4. So with all the off-season shenanigans underway, and now we're getting close to playing some actual football, who are the guys that we're actually going to redshirt this upcoming season? Now, we didn't have a ton of options, but what I did end up starting to do first and foremost is that we redshirted a couple of our running backs, Lance Novak as well as Dominic Bradshaw. They're both true freshmen, and they're both buried deep on the depth chart, while we need to kind of develop the guys, that are those forward string guys. Aaron Hines, I'm hoping gets, a handful of carries throughout the season. Anthony Williams is going to be our starting running back, but hopefully he doesn't end up getting hurt. Now, at the tight end position, I did also redshirt Mike Holt, and the reason why I did that is there's another junior starting ahead of him in Aaron Ford, who is listed as one of the quote-unquote star players. Maurice Randall as well as Perry Robertson, I'm also kind of hoping I get to see sparingly, just to see, what those two guys are made of, if they can be tight ends of the future for our program. Now, moving over to the defensive side of the football, I redshirted Roy Holloway in that 4-3 defense. He's a 4th-string guy as of right now, so I don't really need him this upcoming season. I need him to develop, while Cedric Presley will get the majority of the reps at that left end position. Right end, I'm not going to redshirt anybody. Now, at the cornerback position, though, Early Austin, I really love his talent. 75 overall guy. He is, one of the best secondary guys that came in to our program. He's one of the best players in our recruiting class, but he's deep in the depth chart. He's at best a 3rd-string corner right now on the left-hand side. There's some experience ahead of him, such as Jason Wade, Randy Bell, as well as Justin Johnson, 2 of which are going to graduate next season. So Early Austin wasn't going to get very much playing time this year anyways, so I felt it was best to redshirt him, let him get some experience, get him used to the speed of the college game, because that's certainly different than the speed of, your average high school football competition. And finally, the last person I ended up redshirting is Justin Robinson, true freshman out of Oak Park, Michigan. 3rd-string guy as of right now. He, barely beat out Preston Coley for that 3rd-string spot, but I felt it was a little bit better to have him redshirt. Maybe that gives Preston Coley an additional chance to see what he's made of. Justin Robinson wasn't going to see the field much anyways, as there's 2 seniors ahead of him, Brandon Turner and Anthony Adams. If we don't bring any new strong safeties, these 2 will battle it out next year for that starting slot. So this right here is what our schedule is going to look like. Now, I am going to make a quick change here real fast. We're going to go ahead and move that slot over to week 1. I just like having a week 1 matchup to start things out. So we'll start off with an FCS team, get our feet wet, see what our football team is looking like, and then we'll also play against Arizona State and Minnesota for the bulk of our non-conference play. And then we'll jump into what we are in terms of the of the Great Mid-East Conference. That's what this conference is. I was drawing a blank for a second, but we'll start off our first conference game going up against Cincinnati, and then we'll go on the road to play against the Ohio Bobcats, and then we'll just kind of flip back and forth between home and away games. Home game against Toledo, on the road against Purdue, home against Akron, another home game against Michigan, that is for the battle for the two Power 5 Michigan teams. So a big game for us towards the end of conference play, and then that's actually our senior day as well, as the last 3 weeks that we have are all road games. We go on the road against Kent State, on the road against Indiana, which that is also a rivalry game for us, and then we'll round out our season with a non-conference game taking on Texas State before wrapping up the regular season. So guys, that is actually going to wrap up things here for the off-season recap. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do me a huge favor, you guys, by smashing that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And by the way, guys, if you want to get more involved in this series, if you want to be a high school senior that goes through the recruiting process, goes into the college experience, I do also have a template for those of you that are in the that are interested in having a custom player in this series. So if that's something that tickles your pickle a little bit, check that out down in the comment section. I will have that as a pinned comment next to the Google Doc sheet that does have the stats for all the existing custom players in this series. But with that, this is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.